Hey, what's up guys, Matt here, and today I'm going to do a video on how to smoke a brisket. So this is going to be covering the basics of the brisket, what the brisket is, the different pieces of it, the different types of brisket, your rubs, the temperature. We'll go through it step by step throughout the process. This isn't going to be a super advanced video, so if you're like the weekend barbecue competition guy, you're probably not going to learn anything from this video. We'll keep it at the basics, but if you're new to smoking or haven't done a whole lot, this is going to be something I think that I can give some valuable tips to. I've been doing it for a few years. I've cooked some pretty good briskets, and so sit back. I'm going to go ahead and start getting things prepped up here, and we'll take it from there. Alright, so to start off with, we got all of our things here to get prepped with. Got our brisket over here, tray to work with, got some rubs. We're just using store-bought rub today, but I'll talk a little bit about the rubs. Got some Glad wrap to wrap it up. Got the beer here, Stella in the Stella glass. Gotta have that. And I got my ready check temperature up here. Another key, very important part to doing any barbecue, and especially with the brisket. Temperature is super important. So yeah, so we'll start off. I'll get this out of the package, rinse it off, get it dried, get it cleaned up a little bit, and then show you how to get it prepared and talk a little bit about the rubs. Okay, so I've got the brisket all washed up, dried, and ready to start trimming it up a little bit. But first I want to talk a little bit about the different ways that a brisket comes in. This is a whole brisket, sometimes also referred to as a packer's cut, and it also comes in the form of what they call a flat. And the flat is, if you look over here on the left side, from here back, you can see it's relatively thin here, and then you get up into here and it gets pretty thick. Well, that's this side over here, and it's kind of hard to show, but there's a whole cap on here. See, there's a flap right here, all the way under here. There's a fat line that runs over here that actually takes this whole top part here, along with what it should over there, off of there, and that's called the point generally, and that's a great piece of meat there. But when you get a flat, you don't have the point on there. It's just, you'll see that in most grocery stores normally have just the flat, so you'll see it all the way across, and it'll go to about maybe right here or so, and it'll just be the same uniform with all the way across. I like to use the full. Number one, this point and the meat that's on the point, in my opinion, is the best meat on the brisket. It's awesome. And if you go into your local barbecue joint, barbecue restaurant, whatever, and you get burn ends, that's where the burn ends come from. Right up in here, right here. Also makes for great sandwiches. It's going to be a really tender piece up here, and something that kind of shreds up similar to some barbecue beef or barbecue pork. So if you don't have a full one and you're just doing a flat, you got to be careful about it drying out because it's thinner. And one thing that's nice about this up here is you got a pretty high fat content on the point. So when you're cooking it, that fat goes down through and really makes things moist all the way throughout. So, but if you are doing just a flat, I'll give you some tips a little bit later as we're cooking it as to what you can do if you're just doing a flat to help keep it moist. But yeah, so I got a whole one here. What I'm going to do next is you need to trim some of this fat off of here. So I've got, and you can see here, this is a pretty thick piece here, and I want to trim some of that off. I want to trim a little bit of this, some up here, and then on the bottom, what I call the bottom anyway, you can call it the top, call it whatever you want, but I want to trim some of this off. So I probably have, maybe a ½ inch across a lot of this, of fat on this one, and I want to take this down to just a little bit left on the top, and try to make it uniform all the way across so that we get the same amount of smoke penetration when we're cooking it across. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to get the knife out and trim some of this up. Alright, so yeah, we're going to trim this up here. Just want to go over a little bit of it. The easiest way is just to kind of always grab a piece here and just kind of pull as you trim. You get these pieces off. It's pretty thick right here, so I really want to take that down. Keep kind of working at it. Try not to cut yourself. Just do that, but you're going to want pretty sharp knife to cut through here. And yeah, so you go around, kind of go around the whole side and just, you know, get it started like that, and kind of, you know, once you get it started, you can kind of hang on to that, and then you can just, you know, go and just cutting piece after piece off till you get all the way around, and you kind of got maybe 1/8 of an inch on there. And different people do it different ways. You know, this is the way I do it. There's people that'll cook it with the fat on there, and maybe trim it afterwards, or just leave it on altogether. I like to trim mine down a little bit. I feel like you get a little bit better smoke penetration when you do it. There's no really right or wrong way to do this, and like I said, lots of people do it in different ways. While I'm trimming this, I'll talk a little bit about picking a brisket, and where do you get a good brisket, and where do you go. I mentioned earlier that, you know, if you go to your local grocery store, your Hy-Vee, your Kroger, your Baker's, or whatever it might be, you're typically going to find just the flat, not the whole brisket. Sometimes at the bigger superstores, a Costco or a Sam's Club, places like that, they'll a lot of times have the full. I prefer to get my, and I've actually heard great things about those, but I prefer to get my briskets from a local butcher that has them there. I have one that I use all the time. I have great luck with it. But so, you know, I would find one in your local area and get them from there. Shop around a little bit, ask around, see who's got, see who in your area comes highly recommended. But I'm going to go ahead and finish trimming this up. And then when we're done trimming it up, we'll go ahead and put our rub on and finish up our preparations. All right, so I got about as trimmed up as I'm going to get it, or I want to get it. I can see there's less fat here. There's still some fat on there, and I probably cut it a little close in a couple spots, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's a great thing about putting meats on the smokers. It doesn't have to be perfect. I just wanted to trim the fat down, and I scored, you know, what fat was left. I scored a little bit just to make sure that you know, I can get some good penetration in there with both the rub and the smoke. So yeah, so that's what it looks like on that side, and that was the side that had the most fat on it before. This side didn't have a whole lot of fat, but I did go ahead and trim it up a little bit. Right in here, in this area where I talked about the point here, there's a fat vein that runs through here, and I trimmed some of this out of here, you know, to trim it down, but you don't want to trim all this out because this is actually what holds this top on. So I trim it down in there just a little bit just to kind of expose some of that meat down in here. And same thing on the other side. One key point from preparation, when you slice a brisket when it's all done, it is absolutely imperative that you slice it against the grain. So if you look at this right here, you can see these lines running across here this way. So when you slice it, you're going to want to slice it that way. You try to slice it any other way, and it's going to be really tough, even if you've cooked it all just right. So one trick that I do that, I'm going to take and I'm going to make a cut right here, because you're not going to see this. So when it's all done cooking, this is going to be really dark, and you're going to have no idea where the grain's at. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make one cut here and just cut this little corner off. So that way I know that when it's done that, you know, we're going to have this straight line right here, and I'm going to cut all the way across from there. So yeah, we're going to make that cut, and then we're going to start putting putting our rub on. Okay, so I made my cut. You can see over here, so I know which way to cut it when this is all done. Last thing I'm going to do from a preparation perspective, and I start all this couple, 2-3 hours before. I like to get my rub on, get it wrapped up, and get it in the fridge for a couple hours at least before I get it on the smoker. So, but yeah, rub. So as you can see over here, I'm just going to use a store-bought rub. I'll probably throw one of these on. Maybe I'll use all three, but in general, there's a million different recipes for rubs. You can go on Google. You can make your own. You can do different things. I've made my own. I've done store-bought. For this particular one, I'm just going to do some store-bought rubs. But rubs generally have the same basic recipes, and everybody puts a different twist on it and maybe throws some different things on there. But they're going to have a base of paprika usually. That's predominantly what's in there. Salt, pepper. A lot of times you'll see brown sugar. Onion powder is popular. Various pepper powders, it might be cayenne, maybe chipotle, different things like that. Some mustard powder also gets in there. Celery salt maybe, but there's a lot of different things that go into a rub, and you can Google that and make your own rub, or just do one of these the store-bought ones. So yeah, but for the rub and on a brisket, for me, different than ribs, which we'll cover in a different video. But yeah, we're gonna put a pretty liberal amount on here. Really cover it up, get it in all the different spots on there. And I might throw a little of another one on here as well. Get it opened up. I'll throw some of this in there too. It doesn't really matter. I may not. Get it all on there. So another thing with the brisket, some people, there's different ways to do this. People are always generally going to do some rub, and I'm just going to pat it down really. Just kind of grind it in there just a little bit. Get it kind of down in there. And then I'll turn it over and do the other side. Another something I hear, people will do like a mustard slather, and they like the, claim that will give them a better bark on the outside. So they'll literally take mustard and slather it all on there, and then from there put your rub on next, and I think it helps it set. And it might, I've done it before. I didn't notice a huge difference. It's good that way. Also, sometimes what we'll do is put olive oil or a vegetable oil around there to help the rub adhere a little bit. In this case, I'm just putting it straight on. I'm going to wrap it. I'm going to, when I'm done, I'm going to put some saran wrap around that after it's all done, and then I'm going to put it in the refrigerator for a couple hours at least, and just kind of let it set up and let things get a little bit of rub penetration during that time. Start to get the smoker ready, get my wood soaking a little bit, and then get it on there. So I'm going to finish this up. I'm going to get it in the refrigerator, and then when it's time to put on, we'll talk a little bit about the smoker and temperature and what we're going to do from there. Alright, so we are now ready to get our brisket onto the smoker, and let's talk a little bit about temperature here, so, and the importance of it. So I've got the Ready Check thermometers. So one thing to note about smoking is that the temperature on the your smokers, whatever smoker you have is going to come with a temperature on the outside, and it's not going to be accurate. So it's really important that you get a thermometer that's accurate. These are pretty common. These Ready Check, Maverick Ready Check, I highly recommend it. It's like $45 or $50. You can get them on Amazon. You can get them at your local barbecue specialty stores, places like that. Outdoor stores a lot of times will carry them. But it's got it's got two here. I'm missing my battery case, but it's got one for food and one for the barbecue temperature. So I've got my this one here. This is just going to hang down in the smoker, and it's going to hang. I'm going to hang it somewhere near the meat so that I know that area. I know exactly what that temperature is, and I want to, with brisket and most things, I want to cook it from 225 to 250. So when you get your smoker ready, get it at that 225 to 250 range, somewhere in there. You don't have to be all OCD about it and have it be perfect, but somewhere in that range. So, and that's going to help you do that. The other side of that we got here, you can see the end on that. So obviously this is the one that goes into the meat, and you're going to want to find, a good spot to put it in here. I've got the point side over here, and it's kind of hard to find a good side over there, and this side's a little thin, so I really like to get in here into the middle somewhere. So we're going to get in here somewhere right in there, and we're going to just drive it right into the middle, and I'm going to push it in here, try to keep it as straight as possible. All right, so that looks a little high, so if I look at that, that's not really what I want to be. I want to be a little bit under that. So we'll get under there, and you want to push this all the way in. So, I'll get that in there. I'm going to do it right now, but as I'm holding the video camera, it's a little tough, but we'll get that in there all the way in, and that's going to sit in there throughout the smoker. And then the great thing about these is it's got a remote transmitter here, so it's going to tell me, as I put it in there, you can see the top one is the meat. So it's 66, 63, it's going down, right? I stick it in there, it's cold in there, and that's my meat. And it's going to tell me what the temperature is. For a brisket, you'll hear different temperatures. I would not recommend stopping at anything less than 190 degrees. And I'll talk about that a little bit later after we get this thing on and going, but I'm shooting for 190 to 195 degrees before I take it off. And on that note, how long is it going to take to cook this? Well, until it's done, right? I mean, when you do barbecue, it's done when it's done. There's some general guidelines and general rules of thumb, and one of those is it's about, for a brisket, about an hour per pound. This is a little bit over a 12-pound brisket, So I can expect that it's going to take probably at least 12 hours. You know, maybe it gets done at 11, maybe it's 13, 14, I mean, somewhere in there. But I'm going to watch that temperature, and when it gets to 190, maybe 195, depending on what I want it to be, you know, I'll pull it off at that point. And I may foil it earlier. Oh, we'll see. But yeah, so we're going to get this ready. Going to get it on the smoker. I'll get that in there and get the other one positioned in the smoker right, and then we'll show you what that looks like when I get out there. Alright, so here we are outside. Got the smoker going. See, I got a vertical smoker that I'm using for this one. Didn't go with the charcoal. I was going for kind of a little more the quick and easy. It's a propane smoker. This is like $100, maybe $120 smoker. You don't have to have super top of the line stuff to make good barbecue. It helps, and where it helps is in temperature and maintaining temperature, and especially when the sun comes out in the morning. I'm going to have a little bit more difficult time keeping the temperature down because the walls on this thing are thin, because it's a little bit of a cheaper smoker. But for the purpose of this, it works good. It's like 1:30 in the morning right now, and I'm getting in early because I got people coming over, have a little get together for my wife's birthday. So we got some people coming over around 5 o'clock tomorrow. My plan is to have this out of the smoker by about 2 or 3, so that I can finish it up and have it ready when people walk in the door. And I'm ready to entertain. I'm not messing around cutting meat up and things like that. So yeah, man, it smells awesome out here. I wish you could smell that smell of that smoke is just rolling nicely in there. And yeah, I'll show you the brisket here. Let's get this bad boy opened up. Oh yeah, look at that smoke just roll out of there. So yep, we got it all in there. You can see the temperature sensor in there. You can see this one here in it. I'm just below it, maybe a little lower, but to get what the grill temperature is. Typical vertical smoker. You can see here I've got the wood down below, so you got your heat source coming in from the propane. I know that the purists are like, propane, but you know, hey, however you want to do it, however you need to do it. I'll do charcoal also, but you know, I'm going with the propane tonight. Got our water pan, so heat source into there makes your smoke. Water pan, keep your moisture going, and then you got your different. This one in particular has 3 racks, but there's the brisket in there. It's a little bit of a tight squeeze in there, but that's okay because it's going to shrink a little bit as it goes. One of the downfalls of the vertical smokers, sometimes they aren't quite as big. You can get bigger ones, as opposed to like a Weber Smoky Mountain or a Green Egg or one of the bullet type that you put it right on top. But this is going to get the job done, and it's going to end up really good. So from here, there's not much left to do for a few hours. So I'm gonna get some sleep. I anticipate this taking about 12 hours, so I'm not going to do a whole lot. I'm going to add some wood, first thing up in the morning when I get up, or probably right here. I'll add a little bit more so that this keeps going throughout the night. And then we won't do anything with this, and as you can see, I don't know if I talked about it before, we'll put this fat side up, so that where we trim that fat and that side, you want to start at fat side up so that you get what fat does melt in there, it falls down through. So that's what we got going on right now. And we're going to flip that over, but not until about halfway through. So we're not going to mess with it at all until we get to about halfway through the cooking time. So we'll get 5-6 hours in and start to do some stuff then. But other than that, I'm going to keep a little smoke on it, keep the temperature in that 225 to 250 range. And man, I'm going to hit the hay and get some sleep, and we'll follow up in the morning. All right, so there we are, just about the halfway point. You can see it getting a lot darker, a lot browner. We're probably about 5.5 hours into it right now. Again, halfway is figure about roughly an hour per pound, and then at about your halfway mark, this is when you're going to want to start getting some moisture on it, and turn it over as well. So I've just got some, let's see here, spray bottle that I use with some apple juice in it, and I like to just use apple juice or apple cider for the to get it on there. Some people will baste it on there. I just like to spray it on. It's just easier, especially in a smoker, in a vertical smoker like this. There's lots of different they call mops that you can use, and sauces and things like that. You don't want to put a barbecue sauce or anything on like that, so you want it to be a something a little looser. But you can Google mop
sauces and or mops and get all kinds of different recipes. I just like to use apple juice, so we're gonna go ahead and get this thing set up right here. I think it's spraying a little bit much. All right, we'll get this set up and just give it a nice coating back in there. All over, get it wet down nicely. There we go. And then we're going to flip it over. So I'll flip it over and show you what it looks like on the other side. Alright, so here's the other side. You can see we got some pretty nice crisp bark starting there. That'll even get to be some more. We'll get a little bit more smoke on it here, but turn it over. Need to also spray the other side down here. Now this is just, smoke is really dry and really dry it out. And you get about halfway through. You don't want to spray too much before halfway, because you want to have your rub time to really get set in there, so it doesn't come off when you spray things down. So I got it all sprayed down. I'm gonna get a little bit more wood in there, get a little bit more smoke on it, and let it go for about another hour, hour and a half, and then we'll take a look at it again. Alright, so it's been about another hour and a half or so, and we're at about 8 hours of total cook time. I want to open up. I'm not going to flip it this time. I'm just going to get some more apple juice on it to keep it keep things moist. Take a look at our temperature and things out here. It looks like we are now sitting about 162, and that's kind of an important area in there on our way to 190 or 195. And basically, once you get to around 160 or so, you're going to hit what they call the stall. And this is a point when all the connective tissue is starting to break down inside the meat and it's starting to really get tender. So it could sit like this, easily for an hour, 2 hours, depending on how large the piece of meat is. But it's probably going to hang out in this area and not move a whole lot for a while. It might move a degree or two here and there. But don't panic in here. Don't think that you're done cooking because you just can't get the temperature to come up anymore. Don't start turning the heat up and doing those things. It's normal. It's going to hang out. Just wait for it. Once it breaks, it'll start moving up pretty quick. It'll go from 160, 175 to 180, quickly, and start approaching that doneness. So yeah, like I said, I'm getting on about 8 hours now. So we're starting to get there, and things are really coming along nice. I'm gonna get some more spray on here, and reach back and grab that. All right, so we'll get some more on here. Get her sprayed down nicely. Keep things moist. You can see the bark's really starting to form up on there and then outside. This is really gonna turn out good, I think. Get some smoke rolling in here right now, but still got some smoke. Still got a little smoke going. I'm not gonna put any more wood in. That's the last of the smoke. There's only so much it can take in there. And probably when the next time we open this here in another hour and a half, I'm probably going to foil it and finish it in the oven. But I'll talk about that in the next part here. So yeah, so another hour and a half. We'll check it out again. All right, so it's been about another hour and a half on the brisket. You can see we're up to about 172, so we're slowly but surely creeping up there. And what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to pull it and finish it out in the oven. I'm going to foil it, got the oven set about 240, and put it in there. It really isn't going to take on any more smoke at this point, and I don't have to keep maintaining it. It'll keep that moisture locked in. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and get it out of there. Let's take a look real quick and see how we're doing here. Yeah, I mean, it's looking really good. It's darkened up nicely. So I'm going to go ahead and get this pulled out. Go directly to the foil. If you're going to foil it, try and get it in there as soon as possible. You don't want to lose too much time with that. But we'll get it in that foil. I'm going to get it in the oven, and then in our next section, I'll be pulling out of the oven. And once you do, so when I get it to 190, 195, wherever I end up stopping it right in there, you're going to want to pull it out and let it and keep it foiled. Some people will wrap it in a towel, put it in the cooler, and let it sit for an hour before you slice it. It's very important that you do that. And I'll talk about that again the next time. But that really helps to get it fully tender and ready to slice up. So I'm going to pull this out, get it in the oven, and we'll see you guys in a few. It's been about an hour, hour and a half, and we're getting closer to the end here. It was up to about 172, and what I'm going to do, as you can see here, is I pulled it out of the smoker, and I'm going to get it foiled up, lock some of that moisture in here, let it finish cooking there. Don't have to keep maintaining that, and then just kind of let it finish up in the oven. No hassle, no maintenance there. So I do that quite a bit. Most of the time I like to foil it towards the end. You can do that anywhere really at the midpoint on, as you do it when it's 2/3, 3/4 of the way done. So yeah, I'm gonna wrap this up, get it in the oven. I got the oven set about 240, just to really let this finish up. You can see here, man, it looks it's got a really nice bark all the way around the end here. It's it's looking really good. So yep, we'll get it in the oven, and as soon as it finishes out, we'll pull it out. Gonna let it sit for an hour, just to let it finish up. That's really important. And then yeah, we'll be ready to slice and eat. All right, so here we are. We've got the brisket here, all done, ready to come off. I mean, look at this. This just, and it just pulls right off of there. This is, the point area where you get those burn ends from. We'll try a little of that. Oh, yeah, that's just heaven. Outstanding. So, great smoke flavors. What I'm going to do, if you just got the flat, you can go ahead and just start slicing over here. You can see you see right here is a little flat spot where I made the cut. And if I hadn't done that, it would have been pretty difficult to see just where and which way the grain's going out here. So, and the grain's different. So if you look here, you can see the grain up here is going this way and then this way. So I need to cut this point off first. And there was this fat vein under here that I pointed out before. And basically it would just go kind of right under there. And we'll just work our way through that, all the way through here. And this whole piece is just gonna kind of come right off here. So this is that point that I was talking about, and this is just fantastic meat. It is super tender. It makes just great sandwiches. So we'll finish just slicing this all off of here. So there we go. So this is going to be our burn ends. I'm going to take and I'm just going to chop this up and make it like it is. But yeah, I mean, this looks fantastic right there. So I'm going to get my pan over here. I'm just going to set this aside for a second. I like that right. So now we got the rest of it, the more traditional, what you would think of as brisket here, and I'm just going to trim a little bit of this fat piece off right there. Get some of that off of there, but yeah, it looks pretty good. So what we want to do is take, and now I can see, and I'm going to trim just a little of this fat off of here, off the top. Kind of get some of that out of there. Some people like to leave that on. I kind of like to trim it up just a little bit here. There we go. Ooh, there's a lot of meat there. I don't want to do that. So keep that. That's some good meat right there. We'll keep that. But yeah, kind of just slide through here a little bit and get a decent portion of that fat kind of out of there. All right, that's pretty good. So what we'll do is I'm going to take on this side over here, and we're going to start our cut. So we're going to go through it. This end is usually pretty tough, but in this case it's not too bad. So you can see here, got a decent, what we call smoke ring around there. So we're going to keep making some cuts. I like to cut relatively thin, and what I'm going to do is just kind of keep slicing this up here as I go. And the end's going to be, potentially a little dry, but as you get further and further back in here, especially this side over here where the point was at, it's going to be really good meat. But you can see here, this brisket here, and it's just got a little pull, but you pull it apart, and that's perfect. Yeah, it turned out really good. So I'm gonna finish slicing this up. Probably throw it crock pot on warm till people get here. I'm gonna do the same thing over here with the point. Get that all sliced up too. And yeah, I think that'll yeah, that's gonna be good. So, all right, guys, well, that wraps it up for the brisket. Thanks for watching. It really turned out great. I hope that everybody was able to pick up something out of this, learn a little something. If this was your first time, I think that these steps will get you a great start and a great base for smoking a brisket. I think your friends and family will love it.
From here, it's about playing with it. It's about doing some different things, maybe changing your rubs up a little bit, doing a little something different with the wood, with your basting. There's just a lot of different things you can do. That's what smoking's all about, going out there, having a good time, and playing with it, and seeing what you get at the end. It's almost always a great product. So, get out there, experiment, have a good time, and we'll catch you guys later.